Welcome to our explainer. So today we're diving into this really profound and honestly kind of counterintuitive idea that for your life to be truly fruitful, something in you has to, well, die. Sounds pretty intense, right? But it all comes from this ancient story, and we're going to unpack exactly what it means together.
Okay, so picture this. The scene is Jerusalem, and it's the Passover feast. The city is just buzzing, it's electric, and in the middle of all this, a group of Greek visitors, non-Jews, come up to one of the disciples. Their request is super simple, super direct. We want to see Jesus. They've heard the stories, and now they want to meet the man himself.
Now, you'd think the answer would be pretty straightforward, right? A simple, yeah, sure, let's set it up, or maybe, sorry, not right now. But that's not what happens at all. Instead, Jesus gives a response that seems to come from completely out of left field. It feels like it has absolutely nothing to do with their question.
This is his actual answer. It's this puzzling metaphor about a grain of wheat. He says, look, for a single seed to actually do what it's meant to do, to create a huge harvest, it can't just stay safe on a shelf. No, it has to fall into the ground, get buried, and in a way, it has to die to what it was before.
And that's the big question, right? What on earth does a dying seed have to do with some guys wanting a meeting? It feels like a total non sequitur. But this is the mystery we're going to dig into, because he's not actually dodging the question. He's giving them and us a much, much deeper answer.
So what the sermon suggests is that Jesus is basically telling them, hey, seeing me right now in the flesh, that's only part of the story. The real power, the true harvest of what my life is all about, that only gets unlocked after my death and resurrection. It's just like the seed. Seeing a miracle is amazing, but it's for a moment. What's coming after his death, that's meant to be forever. Okay, so let's really break this down. Let's look at what the source material calls the dying principle. Think of it as the engine driving this whole conversation. And what's interesting is, it's presented as more than just a spiritual idea. It's framed as a kind of universal law for anyone who wants a truly meaningful life.
And we've got to be super clear about what dying means here. We're not talking about physical death. Not at all. We're talking about the death of the ego. You know that part of you that has to be right, the part that craves recognition, the part that's always trying to protect itself? That's what has to die. It's about letting go of that constant me for something way bigger. And the journey of this seed is laid out in 4 really clear steps. First, you've got the seed, just sitting there all alone. All its potential is just locked up inside. Step 2, it has to fall and get buried, totally hidden from sight. Then comes step 3, the death, where its hard outer shell finally cracks open. And it's only after all that you get to step 4, a massive, incredible harvest. So here's the bottom line, the crucial point. A life that's all about self-preservation, playing it safe, making sure you look good, protecting your reputation, that life is like a seed kept in a glass jar. It looks perfect, it's totally safe, but it's also totally alone. It will never, ever multiply. It will never bear any real fruit. All right, that's the big idea. But what does this dying principle actually look like in our day-to-day lives? This is where it stops being a nice little parable and starts getting really challenging, and the source material gives us some pretty powerful examples of the struggle in action. Case in point, John the Baptist. This guy was a superstar in his day, a massive influencer with a huge following. But the moment Jesus comes on the scene, John just gets it. He says, he must become greater, I must become less. Think about that. He was willing to let his own brand, his entire ministry, just fade into the background so that something he saw as more important could take center stage. And that example just naturally leads to some really tough questions for us, doesn't it? Like, why are we so obsessed with building our own brand? Why do we feel this need for our name to be the one everyone knows? It's a direct challenge to our whole culture of personal platforms and online influence.
And then it gets even more personal. Why do we have that burning desire to have the last word in an argument? That feeling that we just have to prove we're right? Well, that's the ego refusing to be buried. It's that part of us that won't die, even for a second, for the sake of peace or just moving on.
Oof, and this next one can really sting. Why is it so hard for us to take the lower place, to just take a back seat? Why do we hate doing the unglamorous work, the stuff nobody sees, and letting someone else get all the credit? It's that classic struggle with pride, isn't it? It's our refusal to fall to the ground and be buried. And here's the connection the sermon makes. This constant internal battle, the refusal to decrease, the need to win, the fight for the spotlight. This is why so many of us feel busy but not productive. We're just spinning our wheels. There's a ton of activity, a lot of motion, but no real lasting fruit to show for it.
But here's the crucial twist. This isn't about loss. The whole point of the seed dying isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of the real story. If we can actually embrace this principle, the promise is that what follows isn't emptiness. It's a life packed with meaning, a harvest way bigger than anything we could have produced on our own.
And the ultimate example of this has to be the Apostle Paul. I mean, just look at this quote. This is a guy facing jail, constant hardship, and eventually execution. And what does he say? He says his own life is worth nothing to him. The only thing that gives it value is finishing the mission he was given. He had 100% embraced this dying principle.
And really, that's the whole takeaway right there. This idea completely flips our modern instincts upside down. Everything tells us to protect ourselves, build our brand, look out for number one. But this principle says, nope, you've got it backward. Real significance, real value is found in the exact opposite, in spending your life, pouring it out for a purpose that's so much bigger than just you. So we're left with this. This whole thing stops being an ancient story about farming and becomes a really direct personal challenge. So the question is, what's your thing? Is it your pride? Your ambition? That deep-seated need to always be right? What is the hard outer shell in your life that needs to crack open and die so that a real harvest can finally begin?